Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees. As we do each meeting, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Followed by the roll call of board members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Good evening, Glenna Yale, 2nd District.
Tom Smith, 3rd District.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
And I'm Julie Hollingsworth, elected from District 1. My far left is Janet Doherty, Clerk of the Board. Good evening. And sitting in for Dr. Robinson is Kathy Friend, our Chief Financial Officer. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. So, first on the agenda, we have a video that highlights the preparations that have been made all summer, certainly, for the beginning of the school year, which starts tomorrow. So, hit it.
This past 3 weeks, we've been working with teachers to write curriculum in grades 6 through 8, math, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. We've also been working with kindergarten through 5th grade ELA, 9 through 12 ELA. We have about 140 to 150 teachers who have been working religiously to create units of studies and then going deeper into lessons.
Writing rigorous lessons takes a long time, and that teachers in the classroom don't have time to write these lessons that are amazing and rigorous and exciting and engaging. And that is why we've taken the last 3 weeks to do this for them. And it's really going to save teachers a lot of time.
When students and teachers are back in the classroom, we have a cohesive at-scale curriculum that provides all students an opportunity to have curriculum that is equitable for all levels of our students and ensure that for mobility of students, that if I move from school A to school B, I'm still going to be in the same unit that I potentially left from, and I can pick right back up.
Parents will see somewhat of a difference with homework that comes home. They may not see the 9 through 35 odd or even problems. They may see 6 problems that ask students to go deeper into the thinking process. They will see that reading and writing is really connected now and not just, I need to read for 20 minutes and then do some comprehension questions.
One of the things that I think a lot of teachers had some trepidation about coming in was, this is kind of one size fits all. We're all going to be doing the same thing in the classroom the same day, all that kind of stuff. Lockstep is maybe a negative way of characterizing it. I think about it differently. I think about, we're from Indiana and we got the 500 every May, and the cars are very similar, but the drivers are very different. So the question is, if we give teachers the best possible car, give the drivers the best possible car, and put them in the driver's seat, can they pilot that effectively? And indeed, in the past, we were asking drivers to build the cars themselves, which some drivers are very good at. Others are not as comfortable with that, or maybe it's not a strength of theirs. So this makes sure that that's not as much of a burden for teachers, and they can focus on delivery of instruction.
We're not done. We know that different teachers teach in different ways. We know that students in classrooms respond in different ways. We're dealing with human beings. So the work is not done. The work will be tweaked. The work might be changed in ways. The work might be moved around. We're going to need help from other people, from teachers, student input. So it's not done. It's not done and set in stone. That wouldn't be learning. That wouldn't challenge our intellectual curiosity and the intellectual curiosity that we want our students to have.
We have 5 major renovations that are underway this summer. 2 of those are wrapping up. one at Glenwood Park Elementary and one at St. Joe Center Elementary. And then we have 3 that are just getting started in their first phases that include renovations at Northrop High School, Lane Middle School, and Washington Center Elementary. Northrop High School, this is the first summer of what's basically a 2.5 to 3 year project. This summer, we've been renovating the auxiliary gym, as well as part of the area near there that used to house Project Lead the Way and is now becoming new art rooms. And then we're also working on renovating the E-wing, which is the first portion of the classroom wings to be renovated. At Lane Middle School, that's also one of our full renovations. That includes the cafeteria, the gymnasium, as well as the art and music rooms, and a complete remodel of the office suite. All of the classroom renovations will follow through the year and next summer. St. Joe Central is wrapping up this summer, so this is the second summer of its duration. So this summer it's cafeteria, gymnasium, the few classrooms that haven't been touched yet, as well as wrapping up the office area and new entrance off the parking lot.
STEM and STEAM are creative endeavors for our schools to focus more on 21st century learning. It focuses on students' critical thinking, their creativity, their communication skills, and their ability to collaborate one another to problem solve and to reflect on global issues and state issues and even local issues. And it's the opportunity for our students to think broader, bigger, deeper, and to understand what it is like to work with one another in a community of learners.
We're excited because we have business teachers, we have an art teacher who are going to incorporate the elements of being a STEM school. So more science, more technology, looking at engineering through an artist's eyes, using the language of math more as part of the art and part of the arts and arts projects so that students have a better appreciation for those subject areas. So I think how parents are going to be impacted and what parents are going to see and hear about STEM is students coming home and talking more about maybe not the most popular or favorite subjects, which could be their math, could be their science, maybe some renewed interest in being engineers and working in the technology fields that need our students to fill those jobs and those occupations. And then I think what we're most excited about is STEM is going to push us to build partnerships with businesses and community members that are right out here in the 19 and 09 that really want to be in our schools working with our kids because they see our students as their future employees.
Kickoff starts this fall. It will continue to grow year after year after year. That's our hope. And that's what professional learning for our teachers is all about. It's that opportunity to continue to grow and to get better and to become deeper and more involved in what we're learning.
Okay, very good. Exciting. A lot of work got done this summer, I see. Everybody excited about their school visits tomorrow? I know I'm fired up about being up at 5:45. Still don't know how that happened. Okay, so now we want to recommend that Northwood Middle School accept a check from Fort Wayne Pickleball, Inc. for use of their gym facilities during 2018. Fort Wayne Pickleball, Inc. is a nonprofit 501c3 with nearly 300 members whose purpose is pickleball promotion, education, and expansion of opportunities for playing the game of pickleball. Fort Wayne Pickleball partnered with Fort Wayne Community Schools to provide open pickleball play at Northwood Middle School last winter on Thursday evenings. Players paid $1 to play each time, and the $200 collected is being presented to Northwood Principal Lindsay Baumgartner by Fort Wayne Pickleball President Mike Fritsch. So if is Lindsay here? She's not here. Nope. Kathy, you want to accept on her behalf? Or,
Yes.
So I would be
I mean, we have
happy
an
to
extra
give
check.
this check to whoever would like to take it.
we go up here?
We'll go up here, we can. All right,
We didn't make a big cardboard.
here we go. There we go. Perfect. Yeah.
Thanks.
All be playing pickleball.
And Mike, did you want to say just anything about the grant program we've started? There's Mike right there.
We have created a new grant program, which we're just announcing today and putting out to the schools. We're just starting it with 2 schools, the first 2 that respond, but we're going to give a free pickleball net and free pickleball paddles, and along with instruction on how to set up nets for a school, because pickleball is starting to be taught in schools around the country, and it's ideal because 3 courts fit on a basketball court, and so you can get 4 students in each court, and it's a very easy sport to learn, and it's very liked by kids. So, and the 10-year-old can beat the 40-year-old. So
We don't like to talk about that.
yeah. So anyway, we're happy to start this, and we want to just see this expand as we go.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, and next we have a couple of public relations awards, and Maria, you want to handle that?
Sure. It's recommended that the board recognize employees who won the 2018 National School Public Relations Association Golden Achievement Award. The National School Public Relations Association mission is to advance education through responsible communication. It provides professional development and annually awards honors to school communications programs. This year, the Fort Wayne Community Schools Ambassador Program was among a select group that was awarded a Golden Achievement Award. Award judges sought outstanding achievement in the 4 steps of the public relations program: analysis of the need, planning to meet the need, execution and communication of the program, and formal evaluation. Each entry was judged individually against these specific criteria, and the Fort Wayne Community Schools Ambassador Program was found to be exemplary. Please come forward as your name is read. Cody Tinnell, Human Resource Recruiter. Joyce McCartney, Public Affairs Associate. Krista Stockman, Public Information Officer. And Melanie Hall, the Director of Public Affairs.
And Krista, if you're standing there, who's going to take the picture?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You planned ahead.
Cool. Congratulations.
Congratulations. It is recommended that the board recognize the employees and business partner that won the 2018 National School Public Relations Association Award of Excellence. The National School Public Relations Association mission is to advance education through responsible communication. It provides professional development and annually awards honors to school communications programs. This year, Fort Wayne Community Schools was among a select group that was given Award of Excellence in NSPRA's Publication and Media Awards for the FWCS Annual Report. In this category, all public and private schools, as well as private businesses serving as business partners, are eligible to enter. Entries are judged against those from similar organizations. The top award in each category is the Award of Excellence. This year, only 9 annual reports across the country received this prestigious award. Please come forward as your name is read. Lori McKinney, Supervisor of Printing Services. Faith Van Gilder, Accounts Supervisor, Asher Agency. Larry Wardlaw, Account Supervisor, Asher Agency.
Come on down, Larry.
Congratulations. Thank you. Yeah. And Melanie Hall, the Director of Public Affairs.
Congratulations.
It's always a pleasure to work with your communications department. They do a great job. We were delighted to be part of it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And do you want to say anything about this? Krista, are you going to do that? I mean, is this something new? Is this something we've entered before? Is this like we've hit the peak this year?
Well, this is the first time, we don't always enter every year, but this
Okay.
is the first time we won an award
Good.
of that caliber. We've won other awards before, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Great.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, we value our partnership with the Asher Agency too. So thanks for being here, Larry. Okay, that brings us to the end of awards and recognitions. So next we have the consent agenda. And those are items that come to us every week. They include the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, July 23rd. They include vouchers and payroll, and those are kept on file for, like, vouchers, I think, for 7 years, if anyone in the public wishes to peruse those. The payroll approval for the period ending July 6th and the period ending July 20th. And then the personnel report, and that includes an addendum to the personnel report that members should have gotten. Since we are getting ready to start school, there are several new teacher hires on here. Kathy, was there anything you wanted to highlight from the personnel report?
That's it.
Okay. So do we have a
I'd
motion?
move approval of the 3 items under the consent agenda.
Second. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ann. Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have no old business, so that brings us to new business, and we have a couple of grant applications. And Tom, I think you're going to take those.
Yes, it is recommended that the board approve the application for an acceptance of non-English speaking program grant for 2018 and 19 in the amount of $836,295 from the Office of English Learning and Migrant Programs of the Department of Education. The non-English speaking program grant is state funding allocated annually based on the limited English proficiency students in Fort Wayne Community Schools during the previous school year. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of services for the district's English Language Learners Program, or ELL. The funds in this year's grant are specifically designated for personnel, professional learning, instructional materials, and translation. This non-competitive grant, written by English Language Learners Manager Emily Schwartz Kearns, supports the Fort Wayne Community School District Goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence, and Goal 2, engage parents and the community. And Emily is here, I believe, to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second to accept?
I move we approve.
Second.
Thanks, Lena. Thanks, Maria. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a
Yes,
question,
okay.
actually. With regard to, it lists that this is specifically designated for professional learning, and that's for the ELL staff, I'm assuming. And Go.
ELL staff and others, so it could be professional learning for other staff around ELL issues.
Okay. And do the ELL staff get to attend conferences, or what kind of professional learning are they doing?
Some of it is in the summer. We just had a session for our teachers new to ELL to introduce them to the field. Most of them had very little exposure to it when they come into it. Some of it is during the school year. We occasionally have teachers out and we provide subs for them. And then there are occasional conferences, but the teachers don't come out of the classroom much to attend conferences.
Sure. Okay.
There's a good Saturday conference in Indianapolis we always try to take advantage of because they don't have to miss school for that.
Sure. And then translation, is that translation for parents at activities, programs, or different events that we host?
A portion of it is written translation of our documents like Student Parent Handbook, Code of Conduct.
Okay.
And then some of it goes to interpreting as well for parents, like interpreters that go out to parent-teacher conferences or events, or interpret phone calls, translate school newsletters, all the daily kinds of communication as well.
Okay, thank you.
And do we get this grant every year?
Yes,
Okay.
this is state funding
It's
each
based
year.
on the number of students we
Correct.
are dealing with.
Okay.
So it's based on the number of students last year, so I'm just
Right.
curious, how does our ELL enrollment this year compare with last year?
Well, whenever I come for these grants at the beginning of the year, we're just starting to get our numbers for the new
Right.
school year. But I can tell you, last year's funding was based on just over 2,600 students in the ELL program. And those are the students who qualify for services. We ended the school year with about 2,700, and we're right about 2,700 now before getting our new students identified. So a lot of our kindergarten students have not yet been identified, or any other new families who have moved in. So we are sure to be up in numbers this year from last year.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Tom, the next grant.
Thank you. This is similar. It is recommended that the board approve the application for and acceptance of the Title III Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students. This grant is for 2018 and 19 in the amount of $420,072 from the Office of English Learning and Migrant Programs of the Indiana Department of Education. The Title III grant is federal funding allocated annually by the Indiana Department of Education based on the number of limited English proficient students in Fort Wayne Community Schools during the previous school year. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of supplemental services for the district's English Language Learners Program. The funds in this year's grant are specifically designated for supplemental instruction, materials, and professional learning and family engagement. This non-competitive grant, ELL manager, Emily Kearns, and Fort Wayne, and this supports Fort Wayne's district goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence, and goal 2, engage parents and the community. And again, Emily will answer any questions.
Do we have a motion and a second?
I move for approval.
Second.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks,
Steve.
Glenna?
Steve.
Oh, Steve? Thanks. So basically, the first one was kind of state funds, and this is federal,
Exactly.
and a little bit different uses, but
Right, the Title III that is up for approval now is purely supplemental, so we can't pay our ELL teachers or anyone providing the basic required services out of it, but the state funding is more flexible and can pay some of the basic services.
okay.
And with the federal dollars, it mentions family engagement. Did you have any data with regard to the number of family engagement events that we held last year for the ELL students?
I don't have numbers on events. Some of the schools do hold their own events, and sometimes that's supported by school funding, Title I funding. Sometimes we add some Title III funds. But we had a great summer program. We had a lot of new immigrant families who were from Spanish-speaking countries. So we had a series of 3 sessions over the summer where we brought families together. We brought in community resources, the library, a police officer, a nurse, 211 from United Way, and gave them some school supplies, strategies to work with their kids. So that was the big part of our family engagement, using this funding over the summer. well, last year's funding.
Sure. And was that, how did people or how did families learn about that event? Were those existing families within FWCS?
Right, we were targeting families mainly in their first year in the country, some second year, and we specifically invited families who met the qualifications.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks again, Emily.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and then we have a couple items under adult education that Glenna is going to take.
Yes, so it is recommended that the board approve the application for an acceptance of the Adult Education Competitive Grant for 2018-19 in the amount of $989,210.48 from the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, Division of Adult Career and Technical Education. The 2018-19 Adult Education Competitive Grant is state funding allocated annually to 12 regions of the state of Indiana. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of services for the Fort Wayne Community Schools District, Allen County Continuing Education Program. The total amount of this grant is $989,210.48, with funding divided into three categories. $776,406.50 will be used for adult education personnel, professional development, instructional materials, supplies, equipment, and purchased services. $169,199.29 will be used in developing integrated education and training for all Fort Wayne Community Schools continuing education adult education students, including education, workforce preparation activities, and workforce training. And then finally, $43,604.69 will be used for workforce education, including providing English language acquisition classes and workforce certification programming for local Allen County businesses and industry. This competitive grant, which supports students 16 years of age and older, is a closed grant for the 2018-19 school year, and then is continued for 2 additional years as a closed renewable grant in 2019-20 and 2020-21. The adult education grant was written by the manager of the Continuing Education Department, Patrick Bowles, along with the Region 3 Adult Education Consortium. This grant supports Fort Wayne Community Schools District 1 goal of achieve and maintain academic excellence, and goal 2, engage parents and the community.
All right, thanks. We have a motion and a second.
Move approval.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Maria. So, Pat, what percentage of your budget is this, and how many students are we talking about?
This is the majority as far as the percentage for our grants, and it comprises approximately, I believe it was 82%. And any student that is involved in any adult education program, whether it's ELL, expectant mother, adult education, they all are able to use that funding.
And you service approximately in a year, because this is a 12-month, am I correct, 12-month program?
Correct. Yes, it's a full year program. We basically shut down 2 weeks a year, and it serves in this portion of it. Last year we served 1,064 students, and so it's generally, and that's an increase from the year before as well. So we did increase just about, it was 97 students total.
What do your, it said you have workforce preparation activities and workforce training. Can you talk about that a little bit, what that entails?
Yes, basically with our adult ed training, What happens is we have 3 different areas. Number 1 is the actual classes, whether it's language acquisition skills, HSE studying, high school credit, whatever it might be. The academic piece is part 1. Part 2 is the area of workforce preparation activities. So it would be like an integrated career awareness program. It could be anything from learning how to write a resume, working on dealing with job applications, but some preparation with that, along with what we've added this past year is integrating contextually and continually into the adult education process vocational kinds of things. So for instance, in our math HSE class, our units are based on, for instance, measurements, things that they would use in the actual certification process. The third portion of it would be the actual Work Indiana certification, IET. It would involve getting a certification, let's say in MIG-TIG welding, and then also looking at employment in those areas as well.
Thank you.
Tell me, Pat, what's it cost to take the HSE exam now?
The HSE exam costs $90.
Okay.
And we do have scholarships available for those
Right.
students that cannot.
And so if someone wanted to make a contribution to that fund, a donation to that fund, we would
Absolutely.
send a check to continuing education?
Yes.
Okay.
And whether it's pickleball, you name it.
Now, do you have a facility where we can play pickleball?
We'll
Over
find
the winter?
one. We'll
Okay.
find one. We have a nice parking lot. And it will hold more.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Pat. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and we have another adult education grant. Glenna?
Yes, so it is recommended that the board approve the application for and acceptance of the Adult Education Integrated English Literacy and Civics Education Competitive Grant for the year 2018-19 in the amount of $120,000 from the Office of the State of Indiana Department of Workforce Development. The purpose of the 2018-19 Adult Education Integrated English Literacy and Civics Education Competitive Grant is to provide adult English language instruction integrating all 4 civics concepts: naturalization, civic engagement, United States history, and government. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of services for the Fort Wayne Community Schools District Allen County Continuing Education Program for ELL Adult Education Programming. The funds in this year's grant are designated for personnel, professional development, purchased services, and integrated education and training. This competitive grant, which supports services for adult English language learners, students, 17 years of age and older, is in the second year of a 4-year cycle, with the remaining 2 years, 2019-20 and 2020-21, also being closed grant continuation years. The grant is written by the manager of the Continuing Education Department, Patrick Bowles, and supports Fort Wayne Community's district goals.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Maria. Any questions about this one? Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we have the 2018-19 Adult Education Work Indiana Competitive Grant. It's recommended that the board approve the application for and acceptance of the Adult Education Work Indiana Competitive Grant for the 18-19 year in the amount of $40,000 from the Office of the State of Indiana Department of Workforce Development. The purpose of the 1819 Adult Education Work Indiana Competitive Grant is to provide education and training services for Allen County adult students to acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are required for employment in high-demand industries on career pathways that lead to sustainable wages. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of services for the Fort Wayne Community School District and Allen County Continuing Education Program that provides 16 different certification programs, including Associate Certified Electronics Technician, Automotive Lighting Technician, CDL training, Medical Assistant Certification, Certified Nursing Assistant, Certified Ophthalmic Scribe Assistant, CNC Operator, Customer Service and Call Center, Heating and Cooling Technician, MIG, TIG Welding, MSCC Certified Logistics Associate, OSHA 10, Patient Access, QuickBooks, and START Professional Hospitality Certifications. The grant allows for the adult education and English language learner students at the Fort Wayne Community School Continuing Education Program to take Work Indiana certification programming at no charge and pays for instruction, curriculum, textbooks, and material supplies used in the certification course. This competitive grant, which supports services for adult education students 17 years of age and older, is written by Manager of Continuing Education Department Patrick Bowles and supports Fort Wayne Community Schools District Goals 1 and 2. And Pat is still here. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thank Glenna. So, question. What is different about, so these are Work Indiana certifications, or these are just standard CTE certifications? I'm not quite sure.
Work Indiana is a program through the state that adult ed students can gain certifications in the different programs across the state. And basically what this does is it provides our students the opportunity to get those certifications. So as an example, if we have a site at Heritage Park Nursing Home, and we offer CNA classes there as well as our HSE classes there. A student who comes into the program can come into the program, register, take classes. After they complete 12 hours or more and deal with classes, they are eligible to take a Work Indiana or IET certification class. Because they're a member of the adult ed programming, this also would be free to them as well. This grant pays for their certification, the instructors, and all the fees that are associated with that. So it's a vital one, and it's a piece that's been added about 5 years ago, which was critical in the educational piece, where we maybe gave an HSE certification or somebody went through ELL, language acquisition skills. This allows us to be able to access certification, high demand job training in those different areas.
So how many students does this affect? I mean, when I look at it, $40,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money for instruction and fees, to obtain those certifications.
Yes, and basically what happens is there's another pot of money out there in Northeastern Indiana Works that was focused for AE students that we still use. Our students are eligible for that amount of money. Plus with the state, they have promised when that money is used, and if we use all of that money, that we could get more during the course of the school year. There's, I believe, $1 million set aside in that fund for Work Indiana programs throughout the state of Indiana beyond what they gave out in the grant.
So how many students do we have that take advantage of these certification programs? Curious.
Between the IETs, the work certifications and so forth, we're talking about, we targeted 20% of our students last year. So generally, our goal, obviously, is to get as many as possible, but we typically have between 100 and 150 that do so. The thing also is the fact that once a student takes one of our programs, in the past, for instance, we also, if a student already had their GED, HSE, if they already had their high school diploma, they weren't eligible to take advantage of this. A couple years ago, we added a component into it and in the grant that when it comes to these monies, we have offered what are called refresher courses in both math and language arts. And it's very similar to what, let's say, Ivy Tech would have in their entry level to the college, where students have to take these remediation courses to get to the level of the classes that they can enter to in the college. We offer those classes built into adult ed because they would sign up for adult ed and take those classes once they get 12 hours in. Even those students are eligible for the process as well.
So some of these students already have their GED or HSE, but some of them might be doing those concurrently?
Some might be doing it concurrently. Some may be, for instance, getting ready to enter a college, and they are, let's say, going to a college for in the medical area, so they can get their certification in CNA as an example, or CCMA, and do it through this process and gain the skills for like the Accuplacer or another testing assessment for them as well. And students are eligible for this up into 1 full year after they leave our program.
Okay.
How do people find their way into the program, Pat? Employers?
Employers. We also have a collaboration, for instance, with Ivy Tech, IPFW, so as they are meeting with students and so forth, that we get a lot of referrals from there as well that are able to take advantage of it. So,
what is the common characteristic of people who eventually find their way into the class?
Basically, it really is the, I think it began about 8 years ago when the economy went bad. Mm-hmm. And our age group went from about, the average age was 26. It went up to 36 in a short period of time because a lot of people were losing their jobs, and so they were coming back and deal with the education component there. So we're getting a wide mix of individuals, but one of those are the students that are 30s, 40s, and even 50-year-olds. And to give you an example, we had a student that was taking HSE because they were working somewhere. They were 30 years of age, and that was this spring. And while they were taking their classes, they were looking at our CDL class. And so they took the class, and you know, the thing about it is that when you look at the average wage of a CDL starting salary, about $68,000, and a lot of them are not overnight, over-the-road travelers. They come back to their families that evening. And basically, this individual was interested in it and took the class, the CDL training, received their training, and on a Thursday got their certification. By that following Tuesday, they had 21 job offers and accepted the one that was not only home that night, but made $81,000 a year.
Wow.
So that also motivates by word of mouth. And you know, we work one does a good job of talking about the program and so forth. So it's a combination, and we also talk to a lot of employers. And for instance, in our one grant for the initiative, we're working currently with Sabre and Nishikawa Cooper in training in regards to their employees, because we can also go into locations and provide training for workers there. And several, like Nishikawa Cooper, several of their employees are actually ELL students of ours. So it was a nice fit, and but basically the combination of things to.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Pat. Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now we have some iPads and ThinkPad and laptops, so Ann?
It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of 1,110 Apple iPads from Apple of Cupertino, California for $326,340. The purchase of these iPads represents the first purchase for the third year of the 5-year technology plan that ensures students and teachers have current technology to support instruction. With this purchase, there'll be enough iPads for every student in kindergarten through 2nd grade. Funding will come from the Common School Fund. Apple Inc. is the sole source provider for iPads. Indiana law does not require bidding for purchases made from sole source providers. Questions will be addressed by Director of Technology Jack Bird.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ann. Any questions?
So Jack, this 1,110 iPads, this takes us to every student K through 2 will have access to an iPad.
Correct.
Will be one, okay. So, okay. And then charging stations, is this included in, I know like the Think tablets had those carts,
These have carts as well.
Okay.
We already have existing carts that we're repurposing for these iPads.
Awesome.
And so once we're one-to-one in kindergarten through 2nd grade, then what do we do with years 4 and 5? Is that
We'll be replacing older iPads.
right? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of 3,940 Lenovo ThinkPad Yoga 11E laptop computers from ProSys of Indianapolis for $1,762,362. The purchase of these laptops represents the first purchase for the third year of the 5-year technology plan that ensures students and teachers have current technology to support instruction. Fort Wayne Community Schools was able to secure pricing that was below General Services Administration, GSA pricing. Indiana law does not require public bidding for purchases made at or below GSA pricing. Funding will come from the Common School Fund and from School Technology Advancement Account. And again, questions will be addressed by Jack Bird.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve.
Jack, where does this put us in terms of, I know the iPads put us 1-to-1 K through 2. Where does this put us in terms of student to technology ratio?
We're already 1-to-1 in our elementary, so 3-5.
Okay.
What this is doing is building the capacity in the secondary schools.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What have you found the lifetime to be on the Lenovo's?
Well, this is our third year, and so far they're doing well.
How many years do we expect
We're hoping for 5.
out of a, okay.
And were you happy with the price? I did the math, and it seems like per unit.
We got a very good price.
Okay. I didn't know. I mean, when I did the math, I was like, woo! And then I was like, well, what do you know? But, so.
No, it is a very good price.
Awesome.
Let me check your math.
I had a really good math teacher. It's on.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jack. Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that brings us to the purchase of a school messenger service agreement. It's recommended that the board approve the purchase of a 4-year school messenger service agreement from West Interactive Services of Omaha, Nebraska for $171,404.80. School messenger is the phone and text notification service used by the district and schools to notify households concerning student attendance, applications for free textbook rental, and school district events. The agreement will be paid in annual installments of $42,851.20. The first year, which is 2018, will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and the final 3 years from our new Operations Fund. Questions will be addressed by Director of Technology, Jack Bird. Do you have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ann. So, Jack, is this something new? Is this a new service that we, or
It is
we
not.
used something different before, so we're just re-upping with the
Correct.
same thing that we used previously?
This is a renewal of an
Okay.
existing contract.
Okay, okay, so schools and are already familiar with this?
Correct.
And, okay.
Correct.
Got one today.
Oh, yeah?
Back to school.
Did everybody get a notification to come to school tomorrow?
That's right.
And so I have a question actually with how this works. The school messenger can be used by building or as like an entire district?
Correct.
Okay, because I didn't get it back to school. We'll be there, but
It was-
so that must have been just maybe
Yeah,
a
it was a
Snyder
Snyder
thing.
thing.
And okay.
Correct.
Okay. And then if there's an emergency, this is also a notification out to parents via text or an audio message?
It can be used in that manner, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Is there a maximum number of messages, or could a principal message every day if he wanted to?
They could.
So when we close the school, this is what we use?
No.
We don't? Why
We
not?
use it to notify bus drivers, but for the schools, we have the website that we use that notifies schools.
Could
and
we
the
use this to
FW
tell parents that the schools are closed?
You could.
Okay. I also saw a program in Austin, Texas, where they used some type of communication system to notify families about completing their FAFSA form. Could that type of communication targeting certain student groups be a possibility of the
Yes.
system? Okay.
And it has been used, not for that particular example, but it has been used for situations like that in the past.
Okay.
So has FACE used this service, Faye?
We are very careful about how we use this service. There are some parents who pay by the text, and they're not real happy when they get some of those. So
Oh,
we're
too
real
many
careful
texts.
about how we use this.
And parents can opt out.
I have a question. If this is not a brand new service, why is the money coming out of the Capital Projects Fund? Why isn't it coming out of operations?
Well, for this year, that capital projects account is the operational account that we pay for software maintenance.
Okay, that's why. Going forward, it won't.
Well, remember, in 2019, the funds are
It's
going
all
to change.
combined.
You were right.
Right, so we're not going to be restricted. Okay, so there were some
Yeah, capital
operational,
projects and
capital projects
transportation.
also include some operations, is what you're
Okay.
saying,
You did.
in the past. It's not just bricks and mortar.
That's correct.
Okay.
I was also informed by Krista that we do use this to notify parents about school delays.
Okay. Any other questions?
The comment made by Faye is interesting, that I'm sure that this is governed by, standard agreements between communication companies, and the user. It would be interesting if there'd be a way to exempt those calls from that type of fee. Interesting. David's writing that down, he's the right guy.
I was just thinking
But
of
you know,
that.
it would seem to be that certain situations, certain emergency calls or other calls should be exempt from that fee. Anyway.
I think it just depends on the kind of plan you have, whether, you know, how many text
Yeah,
messages.
and you know, for this, it really shouldn't matter. But, okay.
We just know that sometimes we get parents that call us and they're.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
Right.
What are you calling me for?
Why are you texting?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, any other questions? Great, thanks, Jack. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that brings us to the first semester 17-18 extracurricular account reports. It's recommended that the board accept the extracurricular account reports for the first semester of the 17-18 school year. This document right here that everyone read. Indiana Code requires an accurate account of all money received and expended by extracurricular accounts. A report of the sources of all receipts, the purposes for which the money was expended, and the balance on hand is required to be filed with the school board of trustees. All extracurricular semester reports were audited by the business office. The general ledger summary report of each school's accounts is provided. All extracurricular records are maintained for 5 years and available for inspection. Questions can be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Maria.
Why do we have to do this? I'm trying to figure out why extracurricular would fall outside of a normal auditing process.
Well, I believe the state's asking for you to approve these because the normal business of the district comes through you already, through the voucher process and so forth. So there are some things that are done at the school level out of their own checking accounts. And so this is a way to provide some additional oversight over their records that they have. So we do have an auditor that goes to the schools. She doesn't get to every school every year, but to review those accounts. But this way, the board has demonstrated that they've looked at these numbers.
So each school has this ledger for these expenses.
Yes.
And do they then keep the checkbook? Can they
Yes.
actually make withdrawals?
Yes.
And so that's on occasion where we run into a problem with,
That's not usually where problems occur.
where is it?
Problems usually occur in the collection of cash and getting it deposited, that type of a thing.
And that's
But
not the situation here?
no, these are deposits that have been made into the accounts, and then the expenditures that have been made with those deposits. So typically, we may have an occasional audit finding where maybe there was an inappropriate use of the funds, but then we clarify that, and so that they don't do it again. We have a manual for the extracurricular accounts that explains exactly what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, how to handle all deposits and expenditures, and what documentation's required.
In this situation, I know on the cover page, it identifies the school principal and then treasurer. Treasurer is a school employee?
Yes.
And are they bonded then by us too?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And all of this is not tax dollars, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, these might
None
be
of it.
fees that might be collected, donations in some cases.
Fundraisers.
Fundraising, right.
Yep.
Okay.
Gate receipts from athletic events, that type of thing.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now we have the, Steve, I think you're taking that, the
Right.
extracurricular account equipment purchases.
Next item is the recommendation that we accept a report of equipment purchases, including reconditioned items of over $500 from extracurricular funds. They're subject to approval by the state, by us, and the State Board of Accounts has agreed then that these purchases and reconditioning may be accepted annually. And we have a report from unit heads for 2017. Board members have a one-page, two-sided document, and the total on this is just over $62,000. So again, the recommendation is that we accept the attached report.
So moved.
We have a motion second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Maria. And again, so these are non-tax dollars. These are, you know, the money that went through these extracurricular accounts. These are the major purchases that were made from those, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And then Steve, then there's the...
Next recommendation is that we accept a list of gifts, grants, and donations to the district throughout the school year. Various schools receive gifts and donations from individuals, organizations, and businesses. Authorization to receive gifts is a function of this board. The State Board of Accounts has agreed that a listing of all gifts received during any one year and ratified by the board would meet audit requirements. And so we have a listing of those gifts, grants, and donations submitted by various FWCS unit heads for 2017, and the detailed report is kept on file in the business office. And we do ask that our staff express appreciation when they get this information, these gifts rather. I was leafing through this. It's about 20 pages, but included in this are donations such as money for the Be Instrumental program, for the purchase of musical instruments, a number of churches that have given money for various items. So it's a pretty impressive list. And the total dollar amount, and this is for the calendar year 2017, Kathy?
Correct.
$581,000. So that's pretty nice.
impressive.
Again, non-tax dollars, gifts, grants, and donations received by the district from a third party.
Do I have a motion and a second?
Move approval?
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ann. Any other questions or comments? A lot of PTA contributions, too, at various schools. Cool. Okay, all those in favor of approving all these donations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that brings us to our resolution. Deja vu all over again. It's recommended that the board approve a resolution that opposes the repeal of the business personal property tax by the Fort Wayne City Council. The elimination of the personal property tax is estimated to cost Allen County Schools $18 million, $11 million for Fort Wayne Community Schools. Property tax losses primarily impact transportation and capital project funds, but with changes to how schools will account for funds in 2019, losses could ultimately impact resources that go directly to schools. Questions can be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend, and the resolution, and this is with a couple of tweaks, essentially the same thing that we did in 2016 when this was first proposed to the Fort Wayne City Council and voted down. So the resolution says, whereas an ordinance has been introduced at the Fort Wayne City Council that would eliminate the business personal property tax as a funding source for the Allen County governmental units, and whereas repeal of the business personal property tax would result in a significant reduction in funding for Fort Wayne Community Schools. And whereas the funding lost to Fort Wayne Community Schools as a result of the repeal of this tax will likely result in a reduction in bus service, maintenance of buildings, and the ability to service existing debt and resources to schools. And whereas the parents of Fort Wayne Community Schools have expressed strong support for maintaining services for their children, which will be reduced further should the Fort Wayne City Council take away the funding of those services. And whereas there is no existing plan to replace the funding lost to Fort Wayne Community Schools as the result of the proposed repeal of the business personal property tax. And whereas the Indiana Constitution limits on real property taxation prevents Fort Wayne Community Schools from making up the loss of funding by shifting the burden to real property, because much of the real estate within the district's boundaries is already at the 1% constitutional limit. And whereas Fort Wayne Community Schools already loses over $6 million annually as a result of the constitutional tax caps in place, which has forced the reduction of bus service to its students. And whereas there is no empirical evidence that the repeal of the business personal property tax will result in additional job growth or business expansion. Be it resolved, the Board of School Trustees of Fort Wayne Community Schools opposes the repeal of the business personal property tax by the Fort Wayne City Council. That pretty much says it all. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move for approval.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Tom. Any other comments or? No? And again, we did this 2 years ago, and hopefully it will have the same outcome. Do we have any idea when there might be a vote on this?
I believe there's another hearing tomorrow on the topic, and then the vote is either the week after that or the following, the 21st or 28th, I'm not positive.
Okay. So one more meeting tomorrow evening, Tuesday at City Council, and then meeting a week or two later, okay?
And then you guys have made presentations to outline how much funding would be lost if this were to pass.
Within our 2-minute allotted time, we did, yes.
Speed reading.
Exactly. And there were, I don't know how many speakers there were at the public comment period, but let's say there were 20 and there were 19 opposed, including many business owners, several and business representative, and one in favor. So that was good to see. Any other questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimously carried. So now we have a report, and so we have a presentation, and everybody has a handout on the summer of 2018 curriculum, writing, work, and professional learning.
Do you have a preference if I sit or stand? Or is there?
Sure.
As long as I can hear.
No, just speak clearly into the microphone.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, you got a little preview of what happened over the summer through the opening, the school opening. But I'm going to give you a little bit more information. Tonight's presentation provides an overview of the curriculum writing and professional learning teachers participated in this summer. Curriculum writing is aligned to District Goal 1, achieving and maintaining academic excellence. Recognizing why there was a need to develop a curriculum is very crucial to the work that we did this summer. There is a need to ensure that our students are exposed to rigorous grade level teaching and learning. We also wanted to provide high school students with a high level math and language arts experiences in preparation for college or workforce, whichever they choose. We also wanted to provide our students with equity and access to rigorous curriculum, and to provide a coherent and cohesive curriculum across the district. We know that sometimes our kids move from one building to another across over the course of the school year. And as was kind of mentioned in the video previously, they will now, they won't lose out. They'll end up in about the same place where they left before, because there is some consistency with the curriculum across the school year. Initially, Dana Center and CenterPoint work with district leaders to identify and clarify our curriculum needs, which resulted in this curriculum, this summer professional learning. It took place in July, and as we said earlier, it was over 140 staff, and they wrote 140 lessons in ELA, middle school and high school math as well. And we did ELA for grades K through 5 and 9 through 12. So there was a lot of lesson development, units and lessons. And again, we provided the 140 so there would be some degree of flexibility. Some classes may take a little longer than others. We have testing built into our calendar, so we wanted to make sure that students, teachers had that time worked into their schedule. What we have now is a curriculum designed by our teachers, which is a huge task. That includes the essential components identified by the district. Teachers will notice the scope and sequence, unit plans, lesson plans. All of those are complete for teachers. The lesson plans still have room for teacher creativity and scaffolding of instruction based on their students' needs. Because these are complete, teachers will be able to focus more time on individual student needs in their classroom, so they don't have to go searching for resources or spending a significant amount of time in the evening or weekends creating lessons and units. They are already done for them. In addition, teachers will engage in purposeful collaboration using the teaching and learning cycle around data, as students will receive similar instruction but delivered in a different way depending on individual class needs. Teachers will be able to collaborate within and among different schools in the district, and we have one example of that. We have Portage and I think it was Memorial Park Friday when we had professional learning, and those two schools work together. So it's already occurring, and we're really pleased about that. Students will notice expectations in our honors courses have risen. All students in our honors with distinction courses are expected to complete performance-based tasks that reflect on their understanding, application, and synthesis of standards that have been covered in a specific unit. In addition, students will notice the complexity and rigor of text selection has been increased at all grade levels. And examples are West Side Story will be read for freshmen and Animal Farm for sophomore students. So we've added a level of rigor and making sure it's grade appropriate. Students will also understand not only procedural concepts in math, they will also understand and apply conceptual understanding or problem solving, math through an increase of mathematical discourse and conversation. So it's not just about solving a problem, it's about being able to explain it, being able to go back and have a discussion over the work. There will be more project-based tasks, and we also, as you recall, we have Dreambox for our elementary students and Agile Minds for our secondary children, which are tools for procedural and conceptual understanding. So those are some of the tools that we'll have. Parents. So one of the conversations we had were about what should parents see? And parents will notice right away high expectations that have been set for their students. In the past, you know, when kids start the beginning of the school year, there's a significant amount of review at the beginning of the school year. Right now, our kids are going to start at grade level tomorrow. And so we're really pleased about that. Along with expectations, parents will notice different amounts and types of practice coming home than in the past. So depending on the class and the grade level, you may see more or less work. instead of, say, 25 problems, you may see 5, but the level of rigor with those 5 may be substantial. All lessons in English, language arts, and math are connected to college and career readiness, preparing students from day one to prepare for life after school, depending on the individual student's desires and needs. And when teachers access the units and lessons, there's activities or experiences that connect with college and career ready. So teachers don't have to go searching for that as well. Parents will also realize students will be exposed to a variety of complex texts that have been vetted by Centerpoint. The increase in complexity is in conjunction with an increase in diverse titles that students will be exposed to throughout the school year. This diversity is to reflect our student population, providing students with high interest in complex texts that align to the standards. Unlike in maybe previous years, students won't be reading a whole novel. They'll read excerpts of a book, and they're given options. They can read the whole book if they want to, if a student wants to read it, but for teaching purposes, they'll only be reading maybe a chapter or an excerpt of the book. And then those books may be repeated at another grade level. So you may read one novel in 9th grade, but it may show back up in 10th grade again.
Tracy, if in my class we read a chapter of, whatever novel you're talking about, will that novel be available to me if I want to read the whole thing? Can I get it from school?
Yes.
Okay.
Either through the library media center, or in some cases, some teachers have books. We have
right, classroom set or something, right?
So they'll be able to access those.
Okay.
Can I stop you?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that they're not reading any complete texts, like the entire novel.
I wouldn't say at the secondary level. Elementary, they may, and Jennifer can probably give you specifics on that.
Okay.
Do you have a list of the books that have been vetted by Centerpoint that our kids will be using in these various classes?
Yes, we can get that for you.
Okay, great.
Okay. As we start the school year, teachers will implement the units and lessons. They will be supported by professional learning communities at the building and district level. Teachers will be provided feedback to guide modifications to the lessons and units as well. We had, our curriculum department were out in buildings on Friday to support buildings with implementation of the professional learning that was designed by our curriculum department, and facilitated at QIT. So they took that learning from QIT. QITs went back to their buildings with their principals. They facilitated the PL, and then our curriculum department was there to support them with any additional questions they may have. And we have a lot of information on our intranet that supports and answers any questions that teachers may have or principals to support them. And then we'll be meeting with them, I think monthly, with the curriculum writers who met this summer to get feedback, make modifications, and support them around this work.
So Tracy, when we watched the preparation for school video, one of the teachers commented that, that this is a start. That, everybody who's taught knows, that the first year that you do something, that there are going to be changes that teachers will suggest. So if I'm teaching algebra, for example, what's my avenue for making suggestions or providing feedback?
Well, what we're doing is we're working with technology to have something, space in our LMS so teachers can go in directly and comment recommendations, and then that will go to someone in curriculum and technology, and they will respond to it, and we'll keep I want to call a growing list on what needs to be modified. And our curriculum department is really good about making those modifications. If there's something, that just needs to be tweaked, we can do that right away. If it's something that's going to require a higher level of conversation, then we can we'll have our curriculum writers come together and along with the curriculum team and have a conversation and then come up with some resolution. We had what we call a parking lot of questions from QIT.
Right.
And they did curriculum department did a phenomenal job of answering all of those questions. And it's 15 pages long worth of questions and response. And then through Friday's PL, we have additional questions. So all of that information will be posted so that they can go right to it. And I'll be honest, I've been asked a lot of questions, and I go to that document because it's easy to read, it's succinct, and it kind of addressed everything. So it's been really helpful. So
back to make sure I understand this correctly. In the high school level, they will only be reading excerpts from novels and things like that, not an entire novel. And what is the rationale behind that?
I'll let Jennifer give you more detail, but when you look at our standards, they're teaching a knowledge, a skill, or applying a skill, and you can get that from an excerpt and not necessarily a full text, a full novel. And so that's part of it. Jennifer, did you want to add anything to that around why they're not reading a whole novel?
So in the secondary level, there are opportunities for them. So for example, Romeo and Juliet, they will read that entire play. But in some areas, we have taken excerpts from multiple stimulus or different text based upon what the standard's asking them to do. So instead of spending time reading from the beginning to the end and maybe only covering a short amount of the standards, we wanted to make sure we went deep with that standard and looking at different stimulus to make sure we covered it, and students could then say, based upon this text that I read, say West Side Story, and then maybe Romeo and Juliet, and then something else, how do they all combine? So it's going from that, I can do that fluency piece of, I can recall something, to now I can apply it to multiple sets of data.
So really, they could be touching upon more books or novels or whatever in the long run.
Yeah, it's growing their depth of diversity of the books that are out there, because sometimes we get stuck in reading the same ones every single year, and there's a whole lot more stimulus out there that we want to expose our students to.
Thank you.
Another question. So, one of the probably major benefits of the curriculum work that was done this summer is to get, say, teachers together that all teach geometry, but they're in various buildings. And those discussions and common planning and collaboration. So what if I for whatever reason, wasn't involved in the work this summer? What opportunity is there for me during the year to make contact, not just with people that teach geometry, for example, in my building, but in other buildings throughout the district?
So we have PL outlined for the whole school year. And so some of those sessions are open sessions, so any geometry teacher could attend if they chose to. If I recall correctly, we try to schedule it so that they can come during an appropriate time. I know we've had some principals share that they wanted to get teachers together, so I anticipate that they will be working to do that as well. But we have a calendar that
Mhm.
we've identified dates, and so we'll be,
Okay.
those meetings will be open.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was wondering, if we were going to get all Algebra 2 teachers together at some point, to share, compare, right?
Yeah, I know, we definitely want to try to get our Algebra 1 teachers together because we recognize that's a significant shift for them. And so we've provided or carved out time for those teachers to come together.
Okay.
So Tracy, on the video earlier, they talked about you would be able to go from, if you were transferred or shifted to another program or another school, you would basically be able to just kind of slide in at the same unit. So every school is going to be teaching the same lesson, basically in the same order and the same day? Is that like?
Not the same day. So you'll
The same week? The same month?
Well, I would say there's wiggle room. And I say that
Yeah,
because.
you said there's room for creativity and there's room for wiggle.
Yeah, because one teacher, their kids may be accelerating at a faster rate than another group. And so I may take more time to cover the content in my class. It's the same content, but how I approach it may be different from my colleague in a classroom down the hall.
Okay, so if I have a class that is accelerating, so then and they've covered that lesson, we then do some kind of enrichment, or do we go to the next unit?
There are enrichment opportunities, or what we call kind of stretching. They're built right into the units. So like we said, with our honor students, those are built in. There are more complex tasks that they will be participating in as part of the lessons.
Okay, so, and that's preparing for the future when we don't have specific honors classes, we'll just have activities that are stretching more in depth?
There's.
For the individualized learning, so
Yes.
you have everybody at different abilities within the classroom.
And all of that is, so you have activities that stretch kids who have already mastered the grade level content but need to be pushed a little bit more. And then you have also resources and strategies for students who may be struggling. So depending on your students, you may try different components of the lesson to meet your students' needs.
Okay. Great.
Help me understand how this activity is being received by teachers. So you had 147 teachers in this summer writing session, representing a little less than 10% of our teaching force. So is this welcome, or do some feel that this is just the next level of intrusion into my classroom? How dare these 147 teachers tell me what I'm going to do?
They were their colleagues, and it was open to any teacher who basically who was interested in doing it. We initially anticipated some pushback. QIT was our first group that was, our principals first, and then our QITs. QITs had an opportunity to dive deep into it, was it the August 2nd? And after they got into it, more of them were very, very receptive. When they took it back to their building, I'll be honest, I sat with my curriculum staff today, and I had a conversation with Get, and it seems to be going well. People have been very receptive. From a teacher perspective, they have it there, so it's like they said in the video, they don't have to recreate the wheel. They have it there. And so some teachers don't understand the why behind it, and when I say that, the question becomes, why do we need grade level appropriate text for our kids? In order for us to help our kids be successful on any assessment or be successful, period, they need to be taught at the appropriate grade level with the appropriate level of rigor. And so this allows them to do that.
So you really have developed 147 curriculum champions that really have to understand well the rationale behind that. I mean, I know in part that in previous years, there's been a timing issue where, state tests come up and, oh my gosh, my kids haven't covered that. So this is hopefully going to fix that we know that in 2 weeks, we've got a test and we need to be, given some wiggle, but that even with that into consideration, we need to be here, folks, right?
Exactly.
In every classroom on this subject matter, we need to be here because our kids are going to be asked about it on this state test.
Yes, and just based on my conversations with my curriculum team and even with GET, what I'm realizing is that change causes some anxiety for people, and I get it. But I've said it over and over. I said we have to be able to do this together, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but if together we can do this, and providing the support, knowing that it's not going to go perfect tomorrow. It won't go perfect probably the beginning of September, but we recognize that and we're going to work through it. And so I think that's very important.
This commitment, if I understand you correctly, to continuous improvement of whatever we've produced, are you going to use something like Google Docs where you can take information and continue to massage and edit and invite participation that, hey, look, you may not have been a part of the Summer Academy, you may not have been a part of the 147, but we do have a tool that's going to allow you to weigh in whenever it is during the course of this school year. Do we have that ability to use something like that if it's not Google Docs, where you don't have to physically come together in a central location?
Yes, and it's our new LMS that we're going
Your
to
new
use.
what?
Our learning management system.
Some digital
Jack,
platform that's going to allow that, Jack?
No, it's not Progress Book. We do have that.
There's two systems that we've used in this process. The first system when we use curriculum writing is Microsoft 365.
Okay.
Which is a lot like Google Docs, and that allowed people to collaborate during the writing. We've deployed now the curriculum that has been vetted in our learning management system. That's Power School Learning. So teachers can go out now and retrieve the curriculum from there. One of the things that's in the process right now is Dana Center and Centerpoint are creating a feedback mechanism where teachers can feed back, hey, we found this out, and that was referenced early on. That will be through the LMS, and we will put those together.
And you're going to be able then to monitor the traffic from various points in the district as to a certain issue or item with a matter.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Now, it's my understanding, though, too, that, for example, if I am teaching Algebra 1, that the only thing on the learning management system right now is Unit 1?
Yes.
Correct.
Math, there's Unit 1 and 2.
Okay. Oh, Unit 1 and 2. Okay. Okay, because that would make me nervous if I were starting the school year and I had only seen Unit 1. Okay, so 1 and 2. And as they're vetted, then I assume, then they will be added to the learning management system in advance of when it's going to be needed. Okay. Cool.
So are, like, all first grade teachers are going to be teaching the same unit, so will they have like their own communications circle or stream or link or whatever it is, so that they can all talk to each other and say, hey, I tried this, but I have kids who aren't getting it, what are you doing instead? Or are they just collaborating within the building? Because I would think that you would want the district-wide input for each topic or level.
So initially, the first level of conversation would be at the building level, and then they can also access the LMS and put their information or their concerns or feedback in the feedback document that will be provided to them. But then there'll also be opportunities for our curriculum writers to come back together and have a discussion around what they're hearing from their colleagues in the building. And as I said before, those meetings, some of those meetings are available for teachers who did not participate in the curriculum writing. So they can participate in that PL and support as well. Okay. So the wrap up of this is you saw an excerpt of the video. This video is, we have more teachers from a variety of grade levels, and they're talking about how they feel about the curriculum writing that occurred over the course of the summer. So this goes into a little bit more detail. Maybe not.
The curriculum that we're creating creates equity for teachers and for students. It allows the students to all experience and be exposed to high levels of rigorous work and texts and resources. It creates equity for the teachers because every teacher has the resources that they need. Teachers don't have to spend all of their time going out looking for these resources, looking for the perfect text. So everyone is given those resources. We no longer have to spend our weekends lesson planning, and we no longer have to spend the evenings lesson planning, and we can really spend our PLC time getting to dive into the data and look at all of that and decide what we need to do next instead of focusing all of our time on planning the lessons.
In terms of the teachers, the curriculum work is providing equity for all the teachers in a sense that those rich problems, those activities, all those items that we all look for and spend hours and hours and hours on our own time, it's all right there for us.
Teachers need to be prepared, students need a prepared teacher. So the curriculum in place ensures that teachers go in knowing what they're going to be doing, knowing what their interaction with students can look like. It gives them resources to make sure that if they're ever at a loss for a student's question, they have ways to respond. And if students aren't forthcoming, as sometimes they're not in class, teachers have prompting questions, things to help draw them in. It just provides all of the tools in place for both the teacher and the student to have a successful learning experience.
I think the primary way that the curriculum work is supporting teacher needs is time. Teachers spend so much time looking for resources and writing lesson plans that they don't have to do that anymore. Our time can be focused on our data, really engaging with our students and building those relationships. And if we don't have to focus so much on lesson planning and finding materials and resources, we can focus more on our students and giving our students what they need.
Now having all of my reading planned out, I already know what's coming and I can really focus more on diving into the data, helping my students where they really need the help, using all of the assessments the best way I can instead of spending that time planning the assessments and planning all the lessons and looking for resources.
As they've introduced the pathways for Indiana, we know that we need to step up our game and get more of our students graduating and successful once they finish high school, and we've got to find ways to do that, and it's a struggle for all of our teachers. Some days it's a sub, some days it's a new teacher. We want to provide that material for them so that we can help them and make it easier so they can spend their time making it stronger and not just doing the basic, because that's what they end up having time for by this end of the day.
The lesson plans that we're creating are not just about treating students fairly and giving them all the same things. In these new lesson plans, we're able to offer tiers and more challenges and accommodations for students at all levels.
As we've worked on the curriculum writing, when we worked on these lesson plans, we've really focused on making these useful for everybody, for that first-year teacher or that veteran teacher.
The small group template really gives some great suggestions for how to adapt that lesson to their needs, to accommodate it. Because at the end of the day, we're not making it necessarily easier for them, because we still want to have the same high expectations for everyone, but we're scaffolding learners to where we want them to be.
Well, this is a rigorous curriculum that we're writing. Students are held to high expectations. They're not spending a lot of time reviewing per se. The review that happens is in the context of new learning.
With all teachers at a grade level working on the same thing and having the same goals, we'll be able to collaborate and talk about student progress. There's also a 3-year commitment with this work, which means we'll be able to come back and revise and revisit to make sure that students continue to be successful.
We are doing more than just creating students who can read. We're creating students who want to read. And in our current society, I really feel like that's the biggest gift teachers can give to it.
Working with a group of teachers from different schools has been an awesome experience, because you get to see different ideas, you get to experience different resources that they use. We've seen the Algebra Mind resource and been able to work with that with other teachers outside of the group that you typically work with, to see where we know we can go, and again, finding resources not only for our kids that are struggling, but our kids that need that extension activity has been exciting.
They're great thinkers. We have a lot of great thinkers, and this is giving them an opportunity to use that thinking and apply it, and without having to memorize a bunch of steps. I'm not saying there isn't a place for it. There definitely is. They need to still practice that, and we can do that very easily. This curriculum that we're doing, the deep, conceptualized activities that takes us forever to come up with, it's all right there for them.
I'm thankful that we've been given this opportunity to create the lessons and everything that we've wanted to do. By coming in at the beginning of the school year, having everything ready is done. So that aha moment for me was, wow, this takes so much time, it takes a lot of energy, and we've got some amazing teachers in our district who are working so hard to put all of this together. It really was an aha moment that this is a big deal and it's going to be so helpful for people.
That was good. How does every teacher see that?
See that? We showed
How do you
it at-
make sure every teacher sees it?
We shared it at QIT, and I think almost every building showed it over Friday. Yeah. I will tell you, Doug Spody, who works with us on our math, he stated to Jennifer that our math teachers were some of the best that he had seen, some of the best lessons that were developed, and he's been all over the country. So I was really proud and very pleased at what he told us. So.
Is this copyrighted?
Make some money while we're at it, huh?
I mean, are
David, you
schools
better
in
make sure we
Indiana
have it
going to be wanting to adopt the Fort Wayne Community School,
I can think of
algebra
a couple
curriculum?
real quick.
Well, we had someone from IDOE here during that time, so some from the math department. Yeah, so.
Listening to the video made me think of one thing. So what about assessments? Am I on my own as a teacher when it comes to assessments?
There are some assessments, I want to say formative assessments built in, and then as a district, we're looking at identifying a formative assessment for this school year real soon. So there are some assessments that are already built into the lessons.
So at secondary, we're still doing the formative, summative thing, 20/80 grading wise?
That's the grading thing.
What's
Yeah. That I don't think that's changed at all. No.
What's that? Jennifer, speak up.
Dr. Robinson's plan was to address the curriculum first and get that implemented, and then, as time goes on, to reevaluate that. But she was very
We have to have
emphatic.
something to do for 2019 and 2020, right?
Well, we already have some things up planned, but she was adamant about doing that, and she expressed that to the teachers.
Okay.
That we were not going to try to boil the ocean, one thing at a time.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jennifer. So, we meet again on August 27th, tomorrow, first day. Bright and squirrely. Most of us are going to visit a school or 2 or 3, right? Cool. Member comments?
No additional comments. I'll be on one of the television stations early in the morning. I'll have my coffee with me. I think where am I going to be, Krista?
21 and 33.
What's Whitney Young? Yes. I think I'll be, yeah. So, talking about school construction and where we are and what we're going to be doing over the next couple of years.
I'm just going to camp out tonight, like they do on Best Buy on, Black Friday. So I'll already be there.
Well, I know it's going to be an exciting year.
Mm-hmm. Glenna?
No comment?
I just want to say happy first day tomorrow, and for all the parents that are going to be emotional. I'm good now. My child's in 2nd grade, so I'm over that. But there were definitely like tears and jitters, and he's so little, we couldn't possibly be dropping him off. But have full faith in all of the people in all the buildings, the teachers and the administrators and secretaries and bus drivers and classroom aides. They'll all be there, and they'll help, and we'll take good care of all the students. So happy first day.
Thanks.
And to those parents who have older kids, my fear now is I have 2 drivers, so I'm giving them all the rules that, if you have to be tardy, be tardy. It's better than speeding. And to make sure when you park, if you can find a place to pull through so you don't have to back out. So that is my concern right now, is having 2 drivers in the family.
Whoa.
So make sure you tell them, well, actually I have 3 now, but one's gone. She missed all that fun of parking in a high school parking lot. But, so be safe, make sure your students are safe out there.
Kathy?
I have a few things I'd like to mention. Many of our students and our families will be going back to schools where there's construction. You'll see signs of construction that's not complete, but it will get completed on weekends and evenings as we can. There's a few little bumps in the road because we had a plumber strike in our area for about 13 days this summer, and that held up not only plumbing projects, but projects that were following right behind the plumbing projects. So never fear, we will get the work done, but you will still see some things in process. Plus, some projects are multiple-year projects, so they will continue to be being worked on. And I'd like to thank Sodexo for all the work that they did this summer to help get our buildings clean and ready for school. That is quite an undertaking to get everything moved around and put back in place and get floors cleaned. And I want to add, as far as air conditioning goes, we're excited to say that we are making progress in that area. Before the 2 referendums started, we only had 20 schools that had complete air conditioning. We now have 42 schools with complete air conditioning. So we still have 8 more to go that will be completed over the next 4 years. So in 2022, everybody will have air conditioning, but that's quite an achievement to get 22 schools air conditioned so far through the project. So we're excited about that. And I'd like to thank all of the teachers, Tracy, Get, Jennifer, all the work that they did. It's just incredible to see the video today, to see all that work. It's fabulous, and to see such excitement and commitment by everybody. And I know if Dr. Robinson were here, she'd want to say that as well. I do have written comments here in regards to Dr. Robinson, and I'm going to read those from this paper so I don't forget to say anything. Obviously, she wishes she could be here tonight. She's asked me to pass on her regrets that she won't be able to be in schools tomorrow for the first day. She recently had eye surgery, and she needs to fully recover before returning to work. So believe me, no one is more disappointed than she is in missing the first day of school. This will be the first day she missed the first day of school in her entire life. So even though she's been in education for 45 years and spent 17 years in school as a student herself, the excitement of the first day has never grown old for her. And she loves seeing the smiles on the kids' faces, their new backpacks, their new shoes, their parents, sometimes tearfully saying goodbye. And each year, as a superintendent, she's visited schools throughout the city, hugging the teachers and staff members and wishing them well. So to the teachers and to the staff members, know that Dr. Robinson is with you in spirit and wishing you a great first day and successful school year.
Thanks, Kathy. And let me just reiterate that it's an exciting time for teachers as well as students. You know, there's always that excitement mixed with a little bit of fear. But like Steve said, I think it's going to be a great year. That the curriculum work that was done this summer, I mean, that is a huge undertaking. And I'm sure there was a lot of planning that went into even preparing for the 3 weeks of curriculum work. And, you know, and Steve even referred to it, you know, there may be some teachers out there that, you know, I've been teaching this, I've been teaching algebra for 25 years. But, you know, it's always, you're always a learner. As a teacher, you are always a learner. And this, I think, is an opportunity for everybody for, you know, for a refresher. And there's definitely a benefit to, you know, aligning courses vertically, so you know you've covered all the standards in second grade that you're going to need for third grade and third to fourth, and algebra to geometry and et cetera. So even that review and just thinking about that is of tremendous benefit. So, you know, I'll be interested. It'll be exciting to see the progress that we make this year and then what we end up doing in 2019.
And the point made by teachers on the video is that there is a better use of a teacher's time, and they pointed that out. And I think that is a very powerful argument for what was accomplished this summer.
Yep, agreed. Okay, well, I guess we come to the end.
Move for adjournment, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the microphone is open for anyone who wishes to address the board.